Hey guys, and welcome back to another episode of Earthen's Den. And in today's episode, I want to talk to you guys about this topic here. And now, first and foremost, I want to say that when it comes to my podcast, I don't think that I'm really being called to that space of talking about activism and social injustices. Now, don't get me wrong, I do have a tendency to touch on these things, especially as I experience them. But this to me, I remember I made the podcast and I talked to you guys about Blackness and strengthening our community and how we can kind of bridge the gap between the divide between men and women and the war against the genders that is going on right now. So moving forward, I just wanted to get on here and say, because I think sometimes these messages can be very sensitive, right? Sometimes when we are speaking about the Black community and we're talking about the injustices that we experience in our day-to-day life, sometimes that can offend people. And I want to make sure that I'm communicating this in a way that is effective, right? And that we have a sense of understanding. So in summary, I really just want to encourage everybody that if you are somewhere and you're experiencing a lot of racial inequity and, you may have a lot of stereotypes around a certain race, right? I want to encourage everyone to step out of their comfort zone and do something different. Go to a new place, somewhere that may honestly be of an upper echelon or somewhere that's inner city, right? Travel somewhere that may be if you go to the southern states, you're going to see more Blacks who are actually successful, right? And you know what I mean? There's more resources and things like that in those areas. And the reason I say that is because I think if you can get out of your own environment, right, and what you're used to, you're going to see things differently, right? And so the reason I say that is because I really don't want anyone to go forward in life hating one another. You know what I mean? I think that we can easily sit in a space and we can definitely recognize some things are just not right and it's just not right. And that's just period. Right. And that's fine. I could definitely hold the space for those things. But I think it's important to understand that if you have hate in your heart towards anybody, it's so limiting. You know what I mean? It's such a limiting experience. And I'm not saying that there are people who you just can't reach. Right. Like I said, ignorance is something that is just it's truly the defile of each man. Right. When I say man, I mean person. You know what I mean? It's truly, it's just debilitating, you know what I mean, in regards to your connections, in regards to your life. And so I encourage anybody who may be in that space, listening to me. I'm a Black girl. So if you've connected with me and if you're in a different race and you feel me, right, you listen to my podcast, you like my podcast, and I appreciate that. And so I talked to you guys in the first episode when I had made that it wasn't a series, but it was kind of like a 2-part, right? I talked to you guys about how I typically will listen to other podcasters and other women who are not in that space, right? And I think that alone just kind of frees up some energy. You know what I mean? It frees up some energy. I think that we can definitely notice the good and bad in the world, and we can notice the good and bad that we have towards each other in one community, or the good and bad that we have towards someone else in a different community. But I think if you could just sit in the space and be honest with yourself and figure out what kind of person you want to be, it really frees you up to a lot of possibilities. You know what I mean? It really does. I think that having hate towards people and really putting people in a box based on your own generalizations of them, it's just so limiting. It's so limiting, and it's not fair. I personally don't think that you'll know who God may bring into your life. You know what I mean? And I talked to you guys about interracial dating, and I talked about the neglecting of your Blackness. I think that we do have to be honest, though. So a lot of these topics are going to be truth, but it's going to be a little painful, and it's going to be a little hurtful, because the truth can be a little bit painful, but it's the truth. You know what I mean? And so I'm not saying that love is not love, right? When I said that, I think love is definitely love, but I just want to make sure that you're doing it for the right reasons. It's no different than if you get in a relationship with someone just because you can use them. Right? Just because of the things that they have available, right? Just because you want to prop yourself up and put yourself on their shoulders and get to your next level. You know what I mean? So in regards to the interracial dating segment of that podcast episode, it's no different. It's no different. And so if you have any type of stereotype that you haven't really been able to overcome, I would encourage you to challenge that and to challenge yourself and your belief system and really come out of your comfort zone. You know what I mean? Because I think that a lot of stereotypes is really rooted in ignorance, right? The things we see about Africa, the things we see about, you know what I mean? When you don't know something, all you have is these kind of it's like rumors, you know what I mean? It's no different than just rumors. And I remember being at work, it's kind of like a thing that we do as a society to kind of get along with one another or to build a false sense of community, right? It's like if everybody doesn't like this one person, then we're going to jump on the bandwagon and not like this one person because, well, we want to be accepted. We want to be in this community, or we may like that particular person, right? But that stuff is so limiting. You know what I mean? And generalizations of people, I can't say that it's always worked out. You know, I've met some really cool people who were different, you know what I mean? Who were absolutely different. And I think that if you can't get past that, then I don't know what life is going to look like. You know, it's not going to be as abundant as you hope for it to be. You know what I mean? So there are some truths in regards to these conversations that it's heavy and it's painful, and it's a very sad reality, and it's very disheartening. But I think as you grow and as you learn and as you branch out of your every day-to-day life, you know what I mean? And you recognize that, okay, not everybody is this one way. It'll change your perception, and it'll really open up your mind in regards to life. You won't feel so limited, right? You won't feel like a minority. You'll actually feel much bigger than that. So that's just what I want to get on here and say, because I wanted to make those clarifications. You know, I think in regards to the truth, sometimes it can be painful, but at the end of the day, if we can transmute that and we can transform that into something that is like, you know, understanding, then that's my main goal here. And I just want to also say too, this is year one of this podcast. And so there's so many things I can honestly say I'm so thankful that I started, and I'm so thankful for everyone who's tuned into my podcast. Like, it means so much. You know, it really does, because knowing that people are listening actually gives me the courage to keep going, right? And so it's been such a beautiful experience, but I'm still navigating the waters of like, okay, what is Earthens then really going to embody, right? Like, what is our niche? What are we really going to talk about? Because I kind of hit on quite a few different topics. We've been talking about some real life stuff. We didn't hit on spirituality in the first season. We talked about meditation. I talked about those practices. We didn't talked about Christianity. We've talked about, I talk about so many different things on this podcast. So, I'm so thankful for everyone who still listens and is with me as I navigate this journey to find my voice, and figure out what is the podcast going to really embody. So I look forward to that. And I love doing this. I really do. Even the times where I'm just like, I don't know. And I'm like, I don't know. When I get on here and I'm communicating and I know people are listening and I know that I'm uplifting someone, you know what I mean? And I'm sharing some level of insight. I love that. You know, that to me it's very fulfilling, because I'm that person. You guys, I was sitting here today and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm sitting in my life and I'm thinking about everything. And I said, I am such a nice girl. I really am. I thought that I was like this kind person. I was like, no, I'm not nice. I'm kind. You know what I mean? I was really, really trying to embody that. But I'm sitting here today and I'm like, yeah, no, I'm definitely a nice girl. So, yeah, that's just a little bit about me and what I've concluded. And lastly, I kind of want to touch on this too, because I know that sometimes in life, you guys, situations are going to arise and things happen, and it's just the most painfulest thing. You think that it's going to be one way and it turns out to be something completely different. But I want to tell you guys this. I think any opportunity that is missed, any opportunity that you feel like you've missed, or any decision that you feel like you've made that was not the best decision at the time, forgive yourself and know that there really is something better. I think that one of the things that I can honestly say about people who view me as a nice girl, because I am a nice girl, right? I really am. I really am. And it's crazy to me, that perception, because it's almost perceived as a weakness. But being a nice girl, I've definitely found that a lot of people will perceive that as a weakness, and they will think that, oh, okay, yeah, she's a nice girl, she's a pushover. You know, I get all of those type of perceptions, and I found people like taking advantage of me and using me, and I was like, dang, this really sucks. And so I'm sitting here with myself today, and I had to really make some very concrete boundaries in regards to my life, because as I get older, right, and I'm sitting here in this space, I'm like, okay, I'm a young woman now, right? Like, nobody's going to be out here protecting me. Like, I have to learn to protect myself. And so that was like number one. But the second piece to this is that I want to talk to anybody who, or any young lady or anybody who is in a space where you feel like people have taken advantage of you. Honestly, you feel like people have taken advantage of you, and they have, because that's valid. I think if you feel taken advantage of, you probably were taken advantage of, right? People taking advantage of you, and people using you for the things you can do for them, for their resources, people not really seeing you in that space, and people really taking your kindness for weakness, and them discarding you and treating you as if you're weak. I want to tell everybody something. I'm going to talk from my perspective, but I hope that this can inspire you guys. My whole life has been crazy. It's been some turmoil, right? And so I remember meeting someone and I was telling them like, yeah, I love New York, X, Y, and Z. And they're like, oh yeah, you got to be strong to go to New York. And I know that because I'm such this nice and kind and loving person, sometimes people are like, yeah, girl, you don't have what it takes, right? Sometimes it's like when you're a pretty girl, people think that you're dumb. It's the same thing goes back to the stereotypes. But I got to a space in my life where I realized that, okay, first of all, not only do they not know me, but their perceptions of me doesn't matter. And when I sit with myself, I think that I am such a strong person. I really believe that I am such a strong person. And I share my journey with you guys about the things I've been through. If you read my book, Seasons, you are going to cry because it was just such a heartfelt piece, but it was so real. And so for me, my strength always came from inside. I was a very pretty petite girl, but like the strength inside of me is like like a roaring lion. You know what I mean? Okay. I'm trying to say roaring lion. Let me say, I'm in the valley, so I'm a little southern. Okay. But it was a roaring lion. And so I'm like, I know that for me on the inside is something, I'm so much bigger on the inside than people think, you know what I mean? Because I'm so skinny and I'm so nice and I'm so friendly. And so, overcoming that and sitting with that for myself, when people would perceive me as weak, I just really use that as an advantage. I was like, okay, that's fine. I'm thankful that people underestimate me because that allows me to move through the world without so many expectations, right? Because when you're in your 20s, you're very impressionable. You want to live up to people's expectations of you. You want people to, you know what I mean? But me, I realized that I use that as my advantage. People get over on me. People treat me this way. I'm like, okay, great. Now this person is out of my way. I see who they are because I knew where I was always going. And I can honestly say some days, y'all, I really don't know. Like some days I'm not sure of the big picture. And I never thought that I would be here podcasting again, right? And I never thought that I could even get past like the 10 minutes. I'm like, I don't really know where this podcast is going to go, but I kept doing it and I kept doing it, right? And so the level of resiliency that I have been like, that I possess, and just the strengthening of my character from those hardships in my life. I think a lot of people like to think that they're strong because their life is structured, right? They have stability. They've been working on a job for X, Y, and Z. They've never really had to rely on people, right? So a lot of people use that level of independency as a strength, right? They see that as a strength. Me, I was strong enough to admit that I don't have all the answers. I'm weak sometimes, right? And to me, I feel like those weaknesses really allow God to open up in my life and pour down blessings on me because I was never too prideful to admit that I did not know the answer, right? And to me, that's where my strength comes from. Like, I really feel like everything that I've been through in my life has, like, it's strengthened me. But I view myself as such a strong person because I've been through so much and I'm still so lighthearted. You know what I mean? And so when I meet people, everybody's story is different. And I think that everybody has a story, right? Everybody has a story, whether or not they will admit it. But I can tell you this, not many people are willing to face the hard truths about their lives and themselves. So for me, I view myself as someone who is so strong because I know myself. And the reason why I know who I am and I'm so strong and confident in that is because I own my truths. I own everything that has ever happened to me. I don't brush things over the rug. I'm not running from my past. I'm not hiding about anything. I own my mistakes. I'm living in my truth. So to me, I just think I view myself as such a strong person. You know what I mean? And I know for a fact that not many people actually possess that inner strength. That's why for some people, they're not risk takers, right? But on the outside, they seem to be so strong and their lives are so secure and intact. It takes a lot of freaking strength and courage to go after your dreams. It takes a lot of strength and courage to be successful. people crack me up. They think that it's just kind of like a walk in the park. And I'm not saying that it can't be that way, right? I think that if you plan strategically, yeah, maybe your life can be different. But honestly, I just want to talk from my perspective, because you guys, that wasn't my life. My life wasn't, I woke up and I started a YouTube channel and next year I was at 100K. That just wasn't my life. Though I think that some of these things can happen in the future, right? By gaining and following and planning and things like that as I learn about, things like that. But like right here today, that just wasn't my life. You know what I mean? And I'm so thankful that it wasn't, because through those adversities, I was really able to find out what I was made of. And that's why my strength is like a roaring lion. You know what I mean? Like I've been through it and I'm like, okay, yeah, I know at this point when my back is against the wall, that's when the beast comes out. You know what I mean? And I love that. And so I think that you got to redefine that, man. Like really get out of those stereotypes and stop judging yourself. Other people they're always going to judge you. Like I really just believe that. I think even if you didn't have a backbone, even if you did have a backbone, even if you weren't somebody who was kind, if you were rude, it just doesn't matter. Like people will always have their perceptions of you and you just can't control that. And so freeing yourself from that will free you from a whole lot because you just can't control what other people think about you. And so I just had to share that with people, because especially right now during COVID, a lot of people are realizing certain relationships are no longer working for them. A lot of people are really doing that inner work. And I shout out to y'all. I commend y'all, because I know how hard it is. And I know just being on the other side of that, like it's so painful, right? It is probably one of the most painful journeys through your personal development, regardless of what people say. It's not a walk in the park. It's painful, and even sitting with some of your failures and your mistakes and your insecurities, like all of that stuff is painful, but pain produces purpose and it produces strength and endurance. And so I just wanted to let everybody know, like, if you're a kind person, I think that kind people are probably some of the most strongest people. Honestly, people who don't take advantage of people who don't use people who don't manipulate people and all this craziness that goes on in the world when you have people who are so hungry for success and money that they're not really chasing purpose and they're not really attuned or inclined within themselves, within their authentic selves. And so you have a lot of that malicious behavior, a lot of that envy and jealousy. But to be a kind-hearted person, to be a cheerful person, to be a loving person, to be a honest person, I think that right there takes a lot of strength and courage, especially in today's society, because it's just not rare. Deception is so prevalent. And the crazy thing about deception is that it looks exactly like the real thing, but it's just not quite, and it's kind of like it blurs in and out. Sometimes it looks like the real thing and it's there, and then you get a glimpse of the real thing and then you're like, wait a minute, did I just see what I just saw? And then it's right back to, you know what I mean? So stay prayerful and make sure you guys get into the subscription service for my young ladies, because I'm talking to you guys about how to guard your heart. And today's episode, I'm going to go ahead and get that uploaded for y'all. And I hope everybody has an amazing day. And I just thank y'all so much for rocking with me. Like, it really means a lot. And I really look forward to where we're going to take this and where this is going to go. Like, I'm just so thankful to be on the road and to have made it to 1 year. Like, wow, that's so bananas. You know what I mean? Like, what a blessing. All right. But I won't go for long. And I just, at the end of the day, you're not weak. You're not weak because you are a nice person and people hurt your feelings. That's not a weakness. I think that is a strength. I think the weakness is when someone hurts your feelings and you act like it doesn't hurt your feelings, because then that rage comes out. And so truth is truth. There's always strength in truth, and make sure you guys check out my book Seasons. It's available on Amazon, Seasons by Jaylin Leslie. And I hope everybody has an amazing day and happy Friday. Keep your head up, even if the clouds are out. All right. There's always sunshine inside of you, and there's always some light that's somewhere nearby. In this moment, you have to be grounded and present, right? Despite all the chaos, despite whatever may be going on in your life, and breathe and understand that right now in this moment, I'm okay, and I can make it through anything because I'm strong. Okay. All right. Love you guys. Hope everybody has an amazing day and a great weekend.